All right, here's another video. This one is about VTP. So right here's the network diagram. Basically, these are all the switches that I'll be working with. So switch one, let me just rename this here. Switch one has connections to switch 2, 3, and 4. So currently the VTP status for switch one is, here's the domain name for switch one. It's called Cisco all caps. Pruning is enabled and it's in server mode. And switch 2, show VTP status. Switch 2 is also named Cisco as the VTP domain name, and it's also in server mode. Switch 3, I have switch 3 configured as transparent mode, also with a VTP domain name of Cisco. And then switch 4 is Cisco, and it's a client mode. So server, transparent, and client. So this being the server mode, if I add right now I don't have any VLANs configured except the default VLAN of 1. So if I configure this on a server, a VTP mode server switch, the VLAN should propagate to all the other switches except the transparent switch automatically. So let's go ahead and do that. VLAN 10, I'll add VLAN 10, and then switch 2 being also a server mode and in the same VTP domain, it should show VLAN 10 shortly. Show VTP status. So switch 2 is not showing VLAN 10 yet, while which one was configured for it. So I'll do a show VTP status just to make sure. So the configuration revision on switch 1 is 3. The configuration revision on switch 2 is also 3. So switch 2 really should see the VLAN 10. Let's see if it shows up yet. Not yet. Okay, the connection's up. The trunk to VLAN to switch 2 is up. Right there, 01 and 02. Show VTP status again. Let me just check everything's okay. Cisco server mode. Cisco server mode. There it is. Finally, that took a little bit of time, but it showed up. There's VLAN 10. And then for switch number 3 being in transparent mode, I don't expect VLAN 10 to show up. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, there's no VLAN 10 there because transparent mode does not take the configuration from server. It just takes that and passes on to all the other modes such as server and client in the VTP domain. So for example, switch 4 should see the VLAN 10. All right, there it is. And so that's good to go. So now I have VLAN 10 on all switches except for the transparent mode switch. All right. So on the transparent mode switch, if I configure VLAN 20, it should only have VLAN 20 locally. And VLAN 20 should not propagate to the other switches. Show VLAN. Show VLAN, and 20 is not there. Show VLAN. All right, so what happens if I configure VLAN 20 on switch 4, which is the client mode? All right, so again, show VTP status just to verify we are the client, and config T VLAN 20. Okay, it does not allow us to configure any VLAN because this switch is in client mode. So when you're in client mode, you don't have that privilege. So if you want to add any VLANs, you have to do it on the server mode switches, such as switch 1 and switch 2. So let's add VLAN 20 to switch 2. Show VLAN again. Okay, config T VLAN 20. Show VTP status. All right. So now we have 7 VLANs. Verify that VLAN 20 is there. There it is, VLAN 20. Going back to switch 1, let's see if VLAN 20 shows up. And there it is, VLAN 20 shows up. And also, you can see that the configuration revision has increased from 4 to 5 because a change has occurred. Okay, so now, so that's VTP version 2. All the switches are running version 2. And switch 3, even though it's in transparent mode, it is running version 2. So ideally, it's best practice not to have both switches running server mode at the same time in a VTP version 2 environment, because basically you could confuse a switch which one is actually doing the configuration. So that's why there is VTP version 3. VTP version 3 allows you to configure a primary, a single primary main switch acting as the configuration switch for all the other switches. So, so in this example, I'm going to go ahead and configure switch 1 as VTP version 3, and all the other switches have to be also version 3 for this to take effect. You can't really have version 3 on one and version 2 on all the other ones in the same VTP domain. So let's go ahead and configure switches 1 through 4 for VTP version 3. Config T VTP version 3. And the same thing for switch 2, VTP version 3. And the same thing. And back to switch 4, same thing, VTP version 3. All right, and so now, it says here, old version 2 configuration file deleted, version 3. So show VTP status, and now this switch is running version 3 with the same domain name. And notice there is no primary ID here. That means that a primary switch has not been designated or configured. Let's check switch 3, show VTP status. VTP status, okay, it is running version 3. This is in transparent mode, and because it's in transparent mode, there is no need to identify the primary like right here, right? It doesn't have that option if it's configured as transparent mode on switch 3. See, transparent mode, there's no primary ID option here. So then if you look at switch 2, you can see here show VTP status for this, and switch 2 because it's configured for version 3 and it's also in server mode, there is an option to identify the primary ID, which is 000 right now because that hasn't been defined yet. Let's take a look at switch 1, show VTP status, switch version 1. It's in server mode for the VLANs, and version 3 is running, so that's good. So now, because even though it's in version 3, but the primary switch hasn't been configured, if I configure, say, VLAN 30 on switch 1, VLAN 30, it says here, VTP VLAN configuration not allowed when device is not the primary server for the VLAN database. So I cannot configure any VLAN at all except for the transparent. See? So VLAN 30 is allowable on switch 3 because switch 3 is a transparent mode and it's running version 3. But if you're in server mode and you're running version 3, it won't allow you to configure any VLAN unless you do it on the primary switch. So I'm going to remove no VLAN 30 on this guy, and let's see what switch 4 says. Switch 4 is in version 3 and is in client mode. So config T VLAN 40 on switch 4, and again VTP is not allowed when it's in client mode. So first of all, it is running a version 3 and it's not allowing us to configure any VLAN because number one, it's in client mode, but even if it's in server mode, you won't be able to configure it as well because it's not configured on the primary switch. So what I'll do is I'll go to switch 1 here and I'll dedicate this guy as the primary switch, and I'll just rename this to primary, so that way primary, no. Alright, so this is the primary switch for version 3. I'll just say version 3 primary. Alright, so that's what that is. And so let's take a look here. How do we do that? We exit out of config mode, we say VTP question mark primary question mark VLAN. For all VLAN, we set this to be version 3 primary. This system is becoming primary for feature VLAN. Alright, it's thinking. Give it some time here. And it says, do you want to continue? To confirm, hit enter. So now I do a show VTP status, and now it says that this switch is operating in primary server. The primary server ID is this MAC address, and my switch, this current switch MAC address is this MAC address, so that means this switch 1 is the primary server. Switch 2, show VTP status. Now switch 2 says that it identifies switch 1 as the primary switch, so that's good. Switch 3, show VTP. With switch 3, it doesn't care which switch is the primary because it's in transparent mode. Switch 4, being in client mode, show VTP status. identifies the primary switch, switch 1 as the primary switch in client mode because it's running VTP version 3. So let's go back to switch 2. Switch 2 is the server mode, but it's not the primary switch, right? The primary switch is 0066, which happens to be switch 1. So switch 2 being the non-primary, I shouldn't be able to configure any VLAN. So let's do VLAN 40. VTP VLAN configuration not allowed when the device is not the primary for the VLAN database. Great. So let's go back to switch 1 being the primary VLAN database switch. I'll configure VLAN 40 on this guy. It allowed it. And so now if I go to switch 2, show VLAN, give it a second here. It should propagate soon. Go to switch 4 in the meantime, show VLAN. Hang on a second. Go back to switch 1 here, show VLAN. VLAN 40 I just configured. Back to switch 2, show VLAN. VLAN 40 propagated over to switch 2. How about switch 3 being transparent? It should not show up, which it didn't. Switch 4, it should show up. And there it is. So switch 4 is also seeing it. So with VTP version 3, you have to configure your VLAN on the primary assigned switch for that VLAN to propagate to all the other version 3 switches, being either server or client mode. So what happens when switch 1 fails over? Does that mean switch 2 take over automatically? And the answer is no, it doesn't. You have to manually configure switch 2 to be the primary. So for example, let me just shut down the link here between switch 1 and switch 2. Fig T, int range G0/0 through 1. Enter, shut down, show int G0/0 is down, and then show int G0/1, and that's down also. So then if I go to switch 2, show VTP, show IP int brief, so the thing with these virtual emulation iOS is that you won't see the directly connected opposite switch ports go down, even though I shut down switch ports on switch 1. Switch 2 still shows that it is up, and that's okay. That's an issue with the virtual image of this CML feature here. So if I do a show VTP status, I basically see that it's still thinking that switch 1 is the primary switch. So in order to make this become the primary switch, we have to do a manual configuration. So I'll do VTP primary, and then I'll do force. All right. What if I do VLAN? Primary VLAN. It says here, this system is becoming primary server for a feature VLAN. It's thinking. Give it some time here. It's thinking. Okay, so I'll hit confirm, END. Okay, so basically it says 007B has become the primary server for VLAN. Okay, END. So show VTP status. Okay, here's this switch's MAC address. This switch is the primary switch. So if I configure VLAN 50 here, Then switch 4 should see VLAN 50 being the client mode. Okay, so basically switch 4 detected that a new primary server has been changed, and switch 2 has become the primary VTP server in this environment, is what switch 4 detected. So that's good. Show VTP status. And so there we go. We see that switch 4 identifies switch 2 as the primary ID. Switch 2's MAC address is 007B8000. And there it is, 007B8000, 007B8000. All right, show VLAN. And there is our VLAN, because I just configured a VLAN on switch 4, on switch 2, VLAN 50. I created VLAN 50. Show VLAN on switch 2. I got 50 here. How about switch 4? Show VLAN. And there it is. VLAN 50 showed up on switch 4. How about switch 1? Even though I've shut down the link here, it might learn it through the client side. So let's see here. Show VLAN. And 50 is being learned. Even though I shut down this link, it's probably being learned through switch 4's connection back to switch 1. Okay, so that's good. And so what if I bring the link back to switch 1? INT range G0/0 through 1. No shut. EMD. Show INT G0/0. It's connected and up. Show INT G0/1 is connected and up. So that's good. And so now show VTP status. It is saying that it sees switch 2 as the primary ID, right? Because I can't configure any VLAN here. 60. Not allowed because it's not the primary. So I can force this switch 1 to be the primary. VTP primary force. This system is becoming primary server for a future VLAN. And switch 2 has identified that it's being forced to not become the primary. Switch 4 has recognized that switch 1 is the primary, and switch 3 has also recognized that switch 1 is the primary, even though it is not participating in any VLAN changes to it locally. So that's good there. Show VLAN. It still got VLAN 20 only, whereas switch 1 now is the VTP version 3 primary switch.